if you take Ubers and Lyfts or you drive for Uber and Lyft, things are worse for you now because of AI. Here's what's going on. And the main term that's being used, especially for the driver's end, is algorithmic wage discrimination. As you can see here, it's the practice where AI-driven systems calculate personalized, fluctuating pay rates for workers doing similar jobs, often based on hidden data points like location, demand, or personal behavior. And I will be talking a lot about personal behavior in this video. And even though this talks about specifically the driver's end, if you're working for Uber or Lyft, this also heavily affects passengers, because to sum this up with what's going on with AI and Uber and Lyft, basically, Uber and Lyft is using AI and a lot of algorithmic tools, let me say it like that, to figure out, okay, on the passenger's end, like say you just take Ubers and Lyfts, what is the most we can charge them? What is the most we could charge them where at a certain point they're like, I'm only gonna pay this much. But on the driver's end, they're trying to figure out, what is the cheapest we can charge drivers that they're still willing to do that ride? That big gap that exists is what Uber and Lyft is focusing on, trying to charge the passengers as much as they can, while trying to pay drivers the least amount that they can to make that gap bigger, to make more money and have more money be in their pockets. I'm going to look at this article right now because this is really interesting. This person declined 184 rides to expose the algorithm when it comes to driving for Uber. And keep in mind, even though this article mainly focuses on driving, this heavily affects passengers. And I want to go down here, and this is the big thing. It charges passengers, let me actually focus on these couple of sentences here. It charges passengers as much as they'll tolerate, like I just said, and pays drivers as little as they can get away with. The gap in the middle, that is Uber's profit, same thing with Lyft, right? And as you can imagine, they're trying to make that gap as big as possible, more money in their pocket. Now, what this person found, they just wanted to cancel a bunch of rides. They declined 184 consecutive trips, and they want to see what was the algorithm really doing behind the scenes, right? And this is what's interesting. In the same app, at the same time, one ride would have paid me just $18 an hour, while another, with no surge shown on the map, would have paid me $54 an hour. What Uber does, to start summing this up pretty quick in terms of all this data that he's going to be talking about, is they try to figure out, okay, what is the least amount we could pay a driver? And I say this because if you are a driver driving for Uber and Lyft, the best thing you can do is to not accept every ride. They determine what I'm going to call the pricing tolerance of a driver. There are some drivers that I've met that I've talked to, I used to drive for Lyft and Uber, who accept every ride. They don't even look at it, they accept every ride. And what Uber will do and Lyft will do is they'll give you, how do I word this the right way? Sugar honey iced tea, if you catch my drift, basically sugar honey iced tea rides, basically bad rides, because they know you'll accept it. They're like, oh, this driver will take anything. We'll give him the worst of the worst. We're going to pay him or her the least of the least for this ride. But if you have a bit more of a tolerance, if you're a bit more like, whoa, I'm not going to drive. No, I'm not doing that ride. Uber and Lyft says, you know what? All right, we have to kind of pay them a bit more of a reasonable wage. We have to give them a bit more. Same thing with passengers. If you're somebody who accepts every Lyft every single time, or every Uber every single time, regardless of the price, when you're taking an Uber might say, oh, we could charge them a ton, because who cares? The fact that Uber and Lyft, the mystery of variable pay, as we get into now, the fact that Uber and Lyft has dynamic pricing, I think is, in some ways, maybe sometimes could be potentially a good thing, but I think in a lot of ways, it's a bad thing. We all know that if, like, say, you're going out on a Friday night, very classic example for most people, you don't want to be drinking and driving, you want to be safe and responsible, and you get an Uber, it is not uncommon for, like, say, you're like, okay, normally it's $12. Oh, now it's $28. We got to get it. And it's crazy that there's no other place that has that variable dynamic pricing. Like, yeah, gas can fluctuate maybe, a few bucks? I mean, think about it. If you go to get gas, and it's like, say, take here in California, $4.50 a gallon, but then it's $4.70, $4.80, or $5 a gallon, people lose their minds. But if you think about it, if you're getting 10 gallons, a 50 cents increase in gallons only equals an extra $5 that you're paying. Still kind of annoying, but it's not that dramatic. With Uber and Lyft, we're now conditioned, if anything, I'd say for better or for worse, but mostly just for worse, to be like, oh yeah, I'm spending $20 more when going out tonight. There's been some times that I go out and it would cost me $20 round trip, but because it's surging and all this kind of stuff, it costs me $43. And I'm just like, all right. And that's what you have to do, because it's almost like you need to get that Uber or Lyft. Maybe you're already out. You're kind of, I don't use the word desperate, but you have no other way to get home. We're so used to the dynamic pricing, I think it does hurt us, As you can see here that, they were talking about the variableness, that the weird thing is when they noticed, when it comes to the worst trip versus the best trip, that there's almost a 3x swing in pay potential with no surge visible. And he stressed this point because he's saying, it's so weird that if you really think about it, that if I'm driving and there's a surge, of course, I'm going to make more money as an Uber driver and a Lyft driver. That's why this surge is. Uber and Lyft says to their drivers, hey, it's a Friday night. We have a lot of demand. Because we have a lot of demand, we need a lot of drivers on the road to accompany that demand. Therefore, we're going to, pay you more. Very similar to, if you're a bartender on New Year's Eve, for example, you're going to get paid more, not just in tips, but in general, because you're like, hey, New Year's Eve is a packed time for a bar. St. Patrick's Day, packed time for a bar, right? So these are the kind of events where in some industries, in a good amount, they do pay when the demand's highest. But with Uber Lyft, it is consistently surging. And it does fluctuate, morning, evening commutes, Friday and Saturday nights are typically the biggest surges. But what they're saying here is, even when it's not surging, the price fluctuation is crazy. As you can see, a 3x swing. And this would, let me see if I can say their name, so I can give them credit. Where is it? What Levi says down here, as he calls it, is the hidden surge is real. There's no surge marker, no surge bonus. It's not like Uber and Lyft's giving you an incentive or whatever. And this is the big thing that he found. Fares varied widely, clearly reflecting higher passenger pricing that wasn't shown to drivers on what's happening. Uber charges the rider whatever it can based on demand. It subtracts taxes, fees, and insurance costs. It splits whatever's left between itself and the drivers. Like I said before, that gap. And here's the thing. If Uber shows the drivers a surge, they have to share it transparently. If they hide it, they keep more for themselves. There's actually an advantage for Uber to say, hey, yeah, it's not surging, but we're going to pay you a little bit or whatever. They can keep more. And I think that's the big thing. Passengers pay more, drivers don't see it. Uber pockets the difference. And they do talk about some interesting things here for my drivers out there. Some interesting patterns when they used AI here to analyze all this data that they found. That UberX Priority always paid a small but reliable premium, worth taking if the pickup is short. Comfort Rides paid decently, but also often came with long pickups. Reverse trips were usually bad deals. Trip Radar averaged slightly higher pay than exclusive offers. And the biggest thing, the single most significant factor in earnings, pickup distance and time. Anything over 8 minutes, that's kind of interesting, nearly always drops into the low profit zone. And this is the kind of advice you give to some drivers right here, that he says, if 2 out of 3 are yes, accept. So this is kind of like the rules of thumb. Is the pickup short? Is it under 8 minutes? Yes. Is a trip type good? Is it a priority or comfort? As you know, there's different types of Uber rides and Lyft rides. And as you drop off longer than the pickup, 2 out of 3 are yes, you should accept. And again, this is the big thing. This is why it matters, again, for pretty much everybody watching this video, whether you take Ubers and Lyfts or you drive for them or both, that here's the thing. For drivers, the algorithm isn't transparent. It hides surge, undervalues pickup, and presents often designated to test, designed to test how little you accept. That's the biggest thing. They test you. What is the worst ride you could take? A sugar honey iced tea ride that's going to pay you almost nothing. Will you accept it? And if you have an acceptance policy where you just accept every ride, that's actually going to hurt you. Same thing here for passengers. This explains why your ride may be assigned to different drivers. We're filtering out low-paying trips that Uber tries to push upon us. And this is an interesting thing that they said up here. I want to highlight it. Uber isn't really a transportation company, it's a broker. And as they stress down here, as we go back down, it's proof that they're not a transportation platform, they're a market-based broker, making money by keeping both sides of the transaction in the dark. The hidden surge is real, pickup is undervalued, and the tip, type, and balance matter when it comes to driving for them. And again, this is pretty much the main thing. The Uber's algorithm isn't just when it comes to matching rides and pairing a driver with a rider. It's a game of margins. And the only way for drivers to win is to understand the rules, not every ride is worth it. And I wanted to make this video because one, I do want to say I haven't done an Uber or Lyft video in a while. You know, this channel's been going through a bit of rebranding in terms of now focusing on different ways to make money, talking about like the YouTube algorithm, cryptocurrency, finance, accounting, etc. We're also documenting our way to make $1 million on YouTube. You can see where we're at right now in the description below. But two, this is something that heavily affects pretty much everybody, especially in 2026 and for years to come. Using AI to determine dynamic pricing isn't going away. And granted, like I showed you in the beginning, the algorithmic wage discrimination, as they're calling it, that one professor called it, I don't think that's going to exist just in Uber and Lyft either. This is something that's probably going to be a big thing for pretty much every industry. If businesses and capitalism, if I hate to use that word like that, can determine ways to pay their employees cheaper and make it variable on a way cheaper scale, they're going to do that. They're going to use the tools available to them to be able to do that. And I think especially when you have, like I said earlier in this video, an industry where the dynamic pricing is so dramatic. Like I said, a lot of people complain about gas. But again, if you're getting 10 gallons and the gas goes up by, like say, $1, goes from like say $4 a gallon to $5, that's a pretty big jump. Even for me, I'd be like, wait, it was $4 yesterday, now it's $5? But if I'm getting 10 gallons, that's only $10 more. I'm not saying that's not a little bit, but if you really do the math out, it's only $10 more, for example. Like I think my car, I have a Ford Transit, I think it holds 14 gallons. So that'd be $14 more. But it's interesting that if I'm taking an Uber or Lyft and it's $20 more, I don't even bat an eye. Don't even bat an eye. Same thing with a lot of people. You know, people complain if eggs go up for, you know, a carton, 12 pack of eggs. People complain it goes up by $2 or $3. It's only $2 or $3. If your Lyft or Uber was $2 or $3 more expensive or cheaper, for example, I don't think people would even notice. You just order it, right? You just order it. And yes, sometimes you are out and you're like, shoot, I have to get it. I'm at that bar. I just finished up. I have to go home. I have no other way of getting home. So I have to order it. But it's interesting that I think Uber and Lyft has conditioned people to accept that dynamic pricing is real, one. But two, the interval, the spread of how big that dynamic pricing can be is pretty wild. I mean, we've all heard stories about like New Year's Eve, how a ride that was normally $20 happened to be $80 because it was surging so much. And you're just like, all right, you know, like it's one of those situations. And I think because of that, this kind of first breadcrumb of first being dynamic pricing, and then the next breadcrumb being, as you go more and more down the line, especially like say the snowball effect, being, okay, well, the dynamic pricing isn't just plus or minus $5. It could be plus or minus 50, 100, whatever it is, right? It's pretty big. And as you go down this path, now it becomes a situation of them saying, oh, wait a minute. People are used to this dynamic pricing. They're used to a huge spread of dynamic pricing, both on the passenger side, but also the driver side of what they make. Now what we can do is do tons of AI algorithmic testing to basically pay drivers the least amount, see who's willing to accept whatever, and we'll give them the bad rides. See what passengers are willing to spend. Some passengers are definitely willing to spend more money. Some might cancel or be like, oh no, I'm not going to get that Uber. That Uber's way too expensive. In that gap, like we've talked about so many times throughout this video, that's where Uber and Lyft really profits. The bigger the gap, the more money they're going to make. And that is something that's not going to stop. And I'm kind of curious to see how this is going to go in the future. If I had to be blunt, I mean, I don't know. Could this be a situation of like a legal thing? And they're saying, wait a minute, like this is kind of messed up. Not just kind of, but this is pretty messed up in terms of them literally saying to, like, imagine if, you know, we all know that sometimes in some companies, people make different amounts. Like your salary might be $40,000, but the person sitting next to you might be $43,000. That exists in some industries, but it is kind of weird where Uber might give, like, say, one driver for the same ride and say, we're going to pay you $8 for this ride. But for another driver, they might say, hey, we'll pay you $14. And they might get paid almost double, or as this person showed, Levi showed, 3 times. So let's say they might pay one driver $8 because they know they'll accept anything. But for another driver who's a bit, next thing, more specific and very meticulous and particular about what rides they pick, they might charge them, they might pay them $24. That is a crazy spread. And part of me feels like, not to go down this rabbit hole, but is that legal? I mean, that again, I don't know. I'll be honest, I don't know. But it is very interesting. And love or hate AI, I think there's a lot of benefits to it. I do think it's almost the definition of irony that Levi, I don't mean this in a bad way, but used AI to study all these analytics, so good and bad parts of AI. But love or hate AI is now being used in a lot of different ways. And I think that it's affecting pretty much the entire rideshare ecosystem, if I could say it like that, of both Uber and Lyft drivers, Uber and Lyft passengers. That gap, it's only getting more specific and more crazy as time goes on to feel like how much they can really optimize it and push the limits.